In the previous few days, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline has been reported to have had at least 4 underwater explosions along its length. Whilst there has been no official responsibility taken for this, it has been concluded by various European authorities that this incident was in fact not an accident. At first, leaders across Europe were hesitant to assign blame and refrained from speculation. However, this was soon followed by some interesting things. Radoslaw Sikorski, member of the European Parliament for Poland, posted a picture of the surface above the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which showed obvious disturbances and leakage from the ruptured pipeline below. He captioned this post, "Thank you, USA." Of course, it should not go without mentioning that Sikorski is married to the influential journalist Anne Applebaum. Anyways, so first, a little background. Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines were completed, and Nord Stream 2 was awaiting sign-off from the German government in order to be approved for operation. This has been a point of contention for the current government in Germany, which rules in coalition with the Green Party, Die Grüne. The Greens have been against the completion of the Nord Stream pipeline and are against the construction and operation of nuclear power plants. However, in light of the current energy crisis in Europe, Germany has had no choice but to reopen retired coal-fired power plants to meet its energy needs. Russia indeed exacerbated this dire situation for Europe by shutting off the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, which prior to the invasion of Ukraine was fully operational. The pipe itself lies in around 50 meters of water in the affected area. The confirmed 3 leaks are near to each other near the Danish island of Bornholm. The leaks are not in the territorial waters of any state, but they are within the exclusive economic zones of both Denmark and Sweden. Neither pipe at the time of the ruptures was in use, but they were both filled with fuel oil. So it already seems clear to most everyone as sabotage of some sort due to the multiple ruptures. An accident due to overpressurization would be much more likely to have only one rupture. So this leaves the question, who done it? And why? Given the current environment of lack of evidence, we have to rely on interests to determine the most likely culprit. We must parse who had the opportunity, the capability, and the intent to do so. There are 5 basic scenarios. The first one is that Russia did it. This is the least likely scenario in my view. Firstly, it makes no sense. Why would Russia, who spent plenty of rubles and time investing and negotiating to ensure the completion of its pipeline, destroy its own infrastructure? Sure, they would have complete deniability for such an action, but look at the long-term strategy here. Russia had every reason to keep that pipeline open but shut off. Russia held the ability to shut off the pipe at will, and did so for the Nord Stream 1 pipeline earlier this year. So they already had the ability to prevent Germany from purchasing their oil. Energy is a massive pressure point of leverage that Russia has over Germany given the current energy situation in Germany. The German economy is reliant on an energy-heavy industrial sector, so not only did Russia have the ability to take away energy, it had the ability to give back energy when the timing was right. This is an incredibly powerful move, and if Nord Stream was still operational, it could make Russia highly appreciated this coming winter. Those who believe that Russia sabotaged Nord Stream thus believe that Russia would give up its long-term strategic leverage and influence over Germany and by extension all of Europe. I have not yet seen an explanation of exactly what Russia would gain out of this, other than the general short-term goal of screwing Europe. Considering economic ties act as an enticement for closer relationships, Russia had far more to gain by leaving the pipes operational, but shut off. Also, the Prosecutor General's Office of the Russian Federation are calling the incident an international terrorist act, for what it's worth. The second scenario is that the United States did it. This is a possible scenario, especially now that there has been official denial from the US. Over the past few years, those of us in frog Twitter spheres have generally been guided by the rule that whatever or whenever something is officially denied, then it is for certain taking place or going to happen soon. This rule has basically been unfailing so far. So there's that. But from the perspective of interest, the global American empire, or GAY, does have something that it wants from Germany: industry and weapons. Due to high energy prices in Germany, the United States is receiving many companies who are seeking relief for their profit margins in an area with lower energy costs. Furthermore, this is in line with the strategic goals of the United States, now that the establishment seemingly has realized that the country will need to reindustrialize if it wishes to be a strategic player going into the rest of the century. But that's all background, long-term interests. The GAY needs something from Germany, and it needs it right now. And the messaging from the mainstream press outlets could not be clearer. Heavy weapons. Ukraine is deficient compared to Russia in the number and quality of tanks, IFVs, APCs, trucks, ARVs, ammunition, radars, air defense systems, artillery, etc. Given the fact of this past week of the Ukrainian offensives near Kherson and Liman, as well as partial Russian mobilization and annexation referendums in Donbass, the Crimea, etc., it would make sense that this attack on critical infrastructure would come now. The German government previously was divided on giving the Leopard 2 tanks as well as additional military equipment to Ukraine. So much so that it could have fractured the ruling coalition. Germany does not relish giving up its best military equipment in active service, since they have given funds directly to Ukraine for purchasing modern equipment from German defense companies. However, as I said, Leopard 2 has been a source of contention. I'm not exactly sure what the combat capabilities of the Leopard 2 are, but I do know that since Ukraine's most modern and numerous main battle tanks are the T-72s that were given to them, and then they will need to address that deficiency in quality and in total numbers by having extremely capable modern assets. If Russia is blamed for the Nordstream ruptures, then Germany will likely be more willing to give those tanks in retaliation. Therefore, since the US is very heavily invested in Ukraine to the tune of $15.2 billion, they cannot afford to lose this proxy war. They need Germany to give the tanks now. The third possibility is that someone else did it. Either China attempting to goad the United States and Russia in a showdown so that both are distracted when China decides to make a move, such as invading Taiwan. But considering the distance from China, as well as China's naval strategy of projecting power locally, this would probably have to be a dedicated mission for them. There's not really a reason for them to be in the Baltic, so there would have to be some sort of plausible explanation for their presence there, with an ongoing proxy war in theater. A possibility, considering China's submarine capability, but not likely due to China simply not having hostile intentions enough with any of the nations involved to do this. The UK, Poland, etc. are all powers which are technically aligned with NATO and have donated very significant amounts of military aid to Russia. Therefore, they are arguably hostile in intention to Russian ambitions. Poland doesn't have the capacity, in my view, but the UK absolutely does. So the UK has hostility capacity and might have had the opportunity, given that it is not that far away from the Baltic. Israel is another possibility, but has been oddly non-supportive of Zelensky in terms of weapons donations. And as far as I know, they just haven't signaled hostility to Russia the same way that the United States, Poland, and the United Kingdom have. Ukraine obviously doesn't have the capability to do this, despite the open hostilities between Russia. The fourth possibility is a joint operation of powers. This is a very powerful possibility. All sorts of hypothetical combinations can be made here, so I'm going to keep this section brief. This scenario could be a single nation working with help from the US government. Just another NATO operation, in other words. Coordination requires common purpose, so NATO affiliates are all under some suspicion, but obviously some NATO countries like Poland are much more hostile to Russia, so it does narrow our scope in determining possible participants. At bare minimum, the US would have to know about and tacitly accept the sabotage operation. However, an interesting thing to think about here is that the US knew about the indication that there was going to be something involving pipelines in the Baltic and warned Germany about it months prior. Hypothetically, that could be the best possible scenario for the US to get at once. It can seem like the helpful intelligence partner, while giving resources and information to the guilty party, even assisting in the act whilst maintaining plausible deniability. And the fifth and final scenario is the wildcard scenario. International terrorist organizations would theoretically have, hostility to do this, but they need the technological capability, the ability to be in the area undetected, and have hostile intentions against one of the nations involved in this. Very few, if any, of those types of organizations are specialized enough to conduct underwater demolition operations in the Baltic. Also, they tend to be fairly quick to take credit for their actions. So the fact that no one has taken responsibility yet should be telling by the silence. This is the least likely scenario in my view. If you liked this video, please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and be sure to check out findmyfriends.net to follow me in all of the places where I am present online, including my Substack account, where I am very prolific in writing. Thank you.